Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Laid Back Life podcast, where we talk about how to love life, entrepreneurship, and improve daily. Joining me today, an incredible guest. I think everybody already knows you, Neal, but if they don't, congratulations. You now get to meet Neal. I was actually on Neal's podcast last week. I don't know whether he's going to air, so Neal and I are running a nice home and home here. Neal is a personal injury lawyer with nearly 40 years of courtroom experience, best-selling author of 2 books on authentic relationship building, and the host of That One Lawyer podcast. And seriously, again, I was on it last week. Highly recommend the podcast. And if you can be a guest, great experience. Through his mentoring platform called Truth and Success, Neal helps early career lawyers and entrepreneurs grow meaningful businesses rooted in trust, connection, and real-life results. His message is simple but powerful. Success doesn't come from marketing gimmicks. It comes from genuine human connection. And if that doesn't tell you why Neal's a guest, I don't know what will. I am honored to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. And when I first saw you on I don't know if it was a podcast or one of the thousands that you've done that made me laugh and also made me think, and I realized, God, we really have something in common here. I have to connect with this guy.
I love it. And it's funny because so Neal's podcast, That One Lawyer, and I think it's hysterical because you can either read it as like, oh, that one lawyer, or you can read it as like, no, that one lawyer, like the one who we're breaking the mold, man. We're going with human connection.
Right.
Just amazing. So I think so. Tell me more about your story. You got the 40 years of courtroom experience. Did you know that you wanted to really care about this genuine human connection from day one? Is that something that you... No, okay.
No, so let me try to take you back without spending 2 hours talking about my background, but I'll try to give you the short version, which isn't that short, but I'll try to make it quick. So I was part of a family of 5, and it was quite a dysfunctional family. I'm sure some people will be able to relate to this, some won't. My mother had multiple sclerosis at a time when there was no way to treat it effectively. And so I saw her go from limping to going to a wheelchair to then being bedridden. My father walked out when I was about 12 years old. He basically absconded, did not, in between the ages of 12 when he left and now, I probably saw him 5 times in my life, and that was generally in the beginning. He walked out on three boys. I never could understand that. I have children. You have children. I don't know what they could ever do in my life that would make me do that. In any event, my 2 older brothers, and they were a bit older, went on their own way, and I was. When I say when they were on their own way, they were teenagers, late teenagers, and they were doing their thing. And I was basically a caretaker for my mother, doing the type of things that you or any one of us would never want our children to do. And I'm not patting myself on the back as a hero. I just want to give people some background. And I was a lost kid. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was very lost. I really never went to school. I cut a lot. And at some point, somewhere in early 10th grade, I dropped out of high school. I went up to my mother. She was sitting in a wheelchair. I said, listen, sign these papers. And probably one of the most difficult moments of my life. And through the grace of other people that I met in the following months, I was able to start to pivot. And it took a while. I know I'm not really getting into it, but that's basically what happened. I met some other people accidentally. They saw something in me that I didn't. I never had an adult relationship, an adult as a friend or as a mentor, and I found one. And he convinced me to move forward in my life, and I did. And that got me back into community college after I took the GED, what we call the GED, General Equivalency Diploma. And then I went to college. I did really well, and then to law school. So the answer is I had no relationships when I was younger. And I created them just by survival. And it worked for me in a way that I could never really express the tremendous gratitude I have. So it was through these fine people that I was able to, build a life for myself, and not only a life that I would never have imagined at age, 14 or 15, and probably the most. And let me just say this because I think it's important. The best moment in my life was when I was graduating law school. I was at Lincoln Center, and my mother was. I get emotional sometimes when I talk about this stuff.
Hey,
but
of course.
But my mother was in her wheelchair, and I remember raising whatever they gave us, not the real diploma, but I raised it, and you could see the smile on her face, and I can only imagine the hell that I put her through, and beyond the hell that she was going through. So yeah, it's a great story, yes, but it's hard work, and that's where the idea of relationship building in an authentic manner really gave birth.
Well, I also think so much of what you do from a mentorship standpoint comes as, you realizing what that person and those people did for you and trying to give it back. Because, not everybody has that connection, that person really pulling for them who sees the best in them. So I'm just, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's again, it seems natural for me to do that stuff. So whether I was in, college or law school, I was always trying to help people. I wasn't necessarily mentoring them at that point, but at some point, I took a liking to helping younger people get their life together. Can I say a bad word here?
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to help, young people get their shit together and try to look through all the bullshit out there, all the just idiotic stuff out there, and try to create a successful life, because we're all entitled to that.
Ooh. See, I hate the word entitled, but I like that use. Like we should. And I think that's so much of what I'm trying to do on this podcast. And I think, what you're trying to do in so much of what you do, like just letting people know it is possible. You can do it. It is a thing. So
yeah, so
great.
I mean, I know it's kind of, you wear your shirts, and I know that's a part of this that means something. It means something. You're you, and that's the authentic you. And I know the word authentic has been thrown around a lot lately. And quite honestly, I was talking about it before. It was an in word, but being authentic is real. When I was a kid, a teenager, and I was like this sensitive, kid, and I really was very shy and hard to meet girls that way. And I remember as a late teenager, maybe when I was about 16 or 17, I remember having some girls say to me, "Hey, I love the fact that you're so sensitive." And I said, wait. Then I said to myself, wait a second, this is working for me. That this me, the real me, is actually making somebody else feel good. And so that kind of started me saying, oh, I'm just going to be myself. That's it.
Well, and it's easy. It's easy. It's easier, right? Like I can't, all those things that are like in the morning, do those mantras and psych yourself up and all this stuff. I'm like, but if you're being you don't need to be psyched up to be you.
Exactly.
Just be you.
Yeah, but we're human beings, so it's hard to keep that all the time.
So that's very true. And I want to talk about that today. So last week we did not have a guest. It was me talking about a time audit. Truly one of the things I push for all my clients, following your day for 2 weeks. And really, like, it just helps you see all the BS, the extra stuff, the 20 hours a week spent in email and all that.
Right.
One of the things that I find people struggle with the most is what to fill that time with, right? Like, it's easy to say, I no longer want to do this, but what do I want more of? So when Neal filled out our form, one of the suggested topics, daily habits that actually move the needle. And so I would love to hear more about these daily habits that move the needle, because I think it's so easy to say, hey, let's do more, let's do more, let's do more. But instead, like the right stuff, the specific things, the exciting things.
Yeah. And sometimes the things to do daily are the things we have forgotten about. So if we're talking about lawyering, although this, whatever we talk about, and I know you feel this way because I know the different types of guests you have on, this not only applies to lawyering, it applies to anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur. And so I tell a lot of people, and again, I'm not suggesting that these are, that nobody else spoke about this before. These are common sense strategies that we all talk about. So I always try to talk to people, especially when they're starting out, and I say to them, hey, if you've got nothing to do and you're trying to open up your own practice, the clients are just not going to walk in. So you need to open your calendar, like I do every day, even after 35 years or so, and I look at white space. And if I see white space, I say, okay, who can I call to have lunch with? And I'm not talking about a fancy lunch, or anything like that. Sometimes it might be, but you could have a 4-star, 5-star conversation at a 1-star restaurant. You just have to, what is it? You have to connect with people. So connecting with people is much easier than you think. It's just a matter of having the right mindset. So whether it's a neighbor, it's a cousin that you haven't spoken to, it's a potential client, it's a current client, it's somebody from law school, whatever. There are ways to fill that calendar up, and that is, in my opinion, one of the least expensive and most consequential things that you could do on a daily basis. Once a day. It could be a phone call. It could be somebody in person. That's what I prefer. But not everybody could do that. That's okay. Just connect with somebody. That's an easy thing to do. What's another thing to do for a lawyer? Answer the phone. We all have seen this. And I repeatedly say this all over the place. Stop hiding. Stop hiding from the client. Get on the phone. Speak to the client. Client only wants to ask you a question, right? I always say the client has hired you because you have a certain set of skills. You want something from that client, whether it's some financial something to do with finances. You want the dollar value of a case. That's okay to say, or you want there's something about the case that you enjoy, or you want to have another person in your file cabinet. Whatever the case, whatever it may be, you want something. They want something. They need something. So together you try to work like partners. And so when a client calls, pick up the phone, man. Just pick up the phone. It's guaranteed it will not be as bad as you think. And if it is, it's 1 out of 10.
Well, I also think so. As a Florida lawyer, every month they send us the attorneys who got punished and what they got punished for.
Right.
And look, the first list is obvious, right? The people who told their clients, the whatever. The one after that is the ones who did not talk to their clients, who didn't. And it's not, please hear me. It's not the client called on a Thursday and I didn't call them back on Monday. Right. It's didn't call them back for 6 months, 2 years, 18 months. And I'm always like, why the heck did this client stay with this lawyer for going through all this too? But second, it's putting those things off. And I'm sure if you ask the attorney, they put off 300 phone calls, and that's why it seems overwhelming versus each, individual one.
But and the thing is, I've met clients. I know it's hard to believe this, Jordan, but I've met clients who maybe was with a lawyer for 6 months, and I said, I was talking to them. They'll tell me they never met the lawyer, that they met the investigator, the paralegal, or another lawyer, but they never met the lawyer that is assigned to the case. And I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I don't understand how that happens.
I don't know. At least, let me be very clear, because for some point I stopped taking cases, but I was very honest and open. It wasn't like bait and switch on the console, where it was like, hey, we have a great team. This is the right attorney for you. Right. So they met the lawyer on the case. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, here's the reality for me, Neal. I think everything you said goes back to the same thing, right? Answering the phone is building connection. Reaching out is building connection. And the sensitivity thing, right? Everybody sits, well, nobody invites me to lunch. But when you invite people to lunch, they're like, oh, nobody invites everybody to lunch. You invited me to lunch. This is so exciting.
Right. Which, by the way, I think you recommended this book, as I have for the last several years. It's by Keith Ferrazzi, Never Eat Alone.
Never Eat
Is that
Alone, yeah.
Never Eat? And it was the first book that I ever read that, didn't talk about like metrics or like, the right frame of mind or anything like that, because I'm really not into that stuff, like metrics. Let somebody else handle that. But somebody talking about, hey, you have to connect with other human beings. That's the way it goes. And if you have time on your hands, spend it with a client. Of course, his whole thing is lunch or dinner, breakfast, whatever it is. But I thought that was a great book. I thought that really was well positioned for what we talk about.
Well, and to take it a step farther, anytime I sit down with somebody, I'm like, hey, what are your hobbies and interests? And they tell me they have none. To me, that's the biggest red flag. What I want to hear instead is, oh, I love pickleball, but I don't get to play enough. I love golf, but I haven't played in months. Great. Now we're going to take that thing that you want to do that you enjoy and that connection you want to make with other humans and make it the same thing. Like, just go play golf with those referral sources. Go try out pickleball with some friends. Go and grow your business while having fun, while building connection. It's all the same thing.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. I love that, because I tell people all the time, if you're into rock collecting, if you're into collecting like, rare rocks, trust me, there's a group out there that you could join. They'll love you, because if you're just going to join a group just to give out business cards, people will see through that bullshit and you won't forget about it. You'll just throw out 500 business cards. You won't get anything else. Join groups like you just said perfectly. Join groups that you have a real interest in. People will take you seriously. And by the way, you're also a lawyer.
And what I never understand, so the group of the business cards, right? To anybody listening to this, that person that you met that just collected as many business cards as possible. You don't like them. You did not reach back out to them. You did not. So don't be that person. Just don't do it.
I actually, I don't know if I I must have written a post about it. And I said, don't go to lawyer events. That's what I generally say. Don't go, because not that you shouldn't go. If that's what you truly like, if that's what you truly enjoy, go then. I don't. A lot of people don't, but still go. Why? Why would you go? What do you think you're going to get out of it?
Oh, because the mentor told them that's how they grew their business.
That's correct. That's
correct. The person
correct.
who bullied them in law school, they think they're going to show them if they become the president of the bar.
Just because your Uncle Irving told you to go join the bar association, that's not going to work. Not today. It's not going to work.
So my all-time favorite, I'm not going to go into the details of the case because that's not important for this.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge tortured Miami Dolphins fan, because there is no other, there are no non-tortured Dolphins fans.
Right.
And so I have this client who's like, hey, I'm going to hire you. I'm a Bills fan. And he's like, my case is good. I think this is the only nice thing that will happen to you as a Dolphins fan. I'm gonna picking you as my lawyer. Right. And even among the sports, fight back and forth, this was so funny the way that this stood out on
wow.
It wasn't that I was a lawyer, it was that I was a football fan.
That's
even
correct.
if we root for opposite teams. So even on these little things where there might be I don't know, the granite rock collectors versus the amethyst rock collectors. I don't know what sort of battle there is in the rock realm. But it's still a connection. It's still a thing to talk about.
Correct. I love that. I absolutely love that.
All right. So connection, picking up the phone. What other daily habits actually move the needle for us?
I think that, I don't get into this that often, but I'll mention it here. I think you have to, look at the people that are working with you. If you're blessed with having people assist you in the office, you have to really treat them as a team. And I'm not from the Dan Kennedy school. I'm from a different school where I think everybody has to kind of work together, and we all have to help each other up. And so, it's my feeling that when you walk into the office, and if you're going to be Mr. Grump every day, that's not going to be good. I believe in trying to lift everybody up. So if that means if somebody's having a bad day and they're otherwise a great worker, it's okay to say to them, why don't you go home early? I have no problem with that. Obviously, I would expect that same person, if we need them to work a little bit later, they would do that also. My point is, it's a team effort. For in the old days, if you had, and I hesitate to use the word, but I will because we all know what we mean. If you had a receptionist answer the phone, that was kind of the position on the bottom. That's the truth. That's what it was. It's a little bit different today, but not altogether different. And the one thing that you could do is look at that person that answers the phone for you in the office as, on some level, they may be one of the most important people in your office. And so try to be inclusive with them on everything that goes on that the office should know about. Often they're the last people to know something, or they're cut out of certain meetings. Shouldn't be that way. They're the most important people, in my opinion. I understand lawyers are important, paralegals are important. I get it. But that person that answers the phone is just essential.
I will go on record. I think it's your most important position.
That's great.
I could sit here and tell you whatever studies and whatnot, but let me give you this example. We moved into a new house. The master bathroom shower rained on me through the ceiling onto me cooking on the ground floor. We need to remodel the bathroom. That bathroom remodel is going to run me somewhere between, I don't know, $30,000 and $60,000.
Right.
I got a referral from a friend for a bathroom renovation place. I called them up. I said, hey, I'm in the middle of an insurance claim over this. Do you handle cases with insurance? And the receptionist said, I don't know. Let me go check with somebody. I'm not certain. And I said, thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day. So poof, $30,000 to $60,000, or the opportunity to make that money out the door because they didn't train this receptionist.
Right.
Maybe they were new. I don't know. But to have that moment of, one moment, yes, absolutely, we can help you with this. Let me get you to the right person, something drastically changes it, because nobody wants to hire you. Nobody wants to hire me. Nobody wants to spend money on anything. They want a problem to go away. And that receptionist is best positioned to make them feel welcome in the immediate first moment.
100%. And I can't tell you, I think we talked about this last week on my podcast. I've had clients build relationships with the legal assistants and the person that answers the phone, the intake coordinator, I'll call that person, that's what I do call them, that when they pick up their check, you could see they're getting teary-eyed. Not because of Neal, sometimes they do, but often it has to do with the supporting office, because these are the people, if they're following your culture, they're calling and speaking with these people and calling them after their hospital visit to see how they are, nothing else. These are the people that they've built relationships with these people. How could you treat these people who are putting money in your pocket any other way?
Dare I say, building genuine human connection with
those
clients.
Right. Exactly. 100%.
All right. So reaching out to people, answering the phone, treating the office well. What else we got in daily habits that move the needle?
Well, daily habits, I don't know if I would call this one a daily habit, but what I would say is, if you have a little extra money, it's always good to think about investing in your soft skills, right? So, I'm not talking about going to continuing education, which we all have to do, and it's important, no question about it. I'm talking about becoming a better listener, becoming a better speaker, being able to connect with your clients beyond, what's the accident about? How do you do that? Well, there are definitely people out there that will help you with that. You could do that with friends. You could do that with family. It's a very, I don't want to say easy, but it doesn't take a lot of thought to just do that, to know how to say hello, use somebody's name, touch somebody, whether you want to shake their hand or if the moment calls for it, you want to put your hand on their shoulder. Connecting with other people is key. It makes a difference in the relationship. I try to do that with every client that I have, and depending on the client, maybe it's a handshake, maybe it's a hug. I went to a client's house the other day for lunch. Case is over. We just met for lunch, and he says, "Come to my house." So I went to his house, and he got a pizza in, and when we left, we gave each other a hug. That's what I do. It costs me nothing, but guess what? That hug sends a message. The message is, this goes beyond lawyering. Can you do it with every client? Of course not. And this is not, we're not talking, you can't scale this stuff really. It's quite personal, and that's what makes it so important. In the end, you want to be the concierge to your clients. You want to give your clients concierge level treatment. And if you don't, well, there's a lot of other firms that will be on the same list, and people won't look at you any differently. If you treat them with a concierge level treatment, they'll look at you differently.
Well, and you talked about this a little bit before, people who are lucky enough to have support at the office. If you don't have that support, you're that much less scalable on the soft skills, right? If you have to fill out all the contracts, if you have to do all the legal research, if you have to draft all the motions. So my standpoint is, if you really, really, really enjoy genuine human connection, you can generate that much more work by building more human connection, by being in your zone of genius
100%.
And have more support behind you to let you do that more often.
And that's 100% right. Well said. And the other thing I would say, Jordan, is this stuff that we're talking about. Yeah, we're PI lawyers. And so, we understand. It's very clear why that would work in PI. But a lot of people think it's kind of cloudy when you're doing corporate law and other big law firm stuff. Well, I don't buy that, because at the end of the day, even corporate lawyers get clients. It's when client wants to hire somebody in a white shoe law firm, they're going to talk to one of the partners or somebody else. And so it's always going to be about people connecting. Maybe it's a different culture. Maybe they're going to talk more about golf than I would. Okay, that's okay. But they're connecting in some way. So whatever role you're in, whatever discipline you're in the legal field, it works. And so when I tell people who are in big law, corporate law, I say, hey, just understand what the culture is, but connect either way, connect the same way. Whether you're going out with somebody or whatever it is, corporate law is no different. You're not dealing with entities, you're dealing with people who run entities.
I promise you, the largest law firm at any of those insurance conferences or whatever throws the best parties after the conference is over to build those human connections. I would state it is. This is recorded. I'm going on record with that one. Yeah, I'm with you. So you mentioned at the beginning, though, like if you have a little bit more money working on the soft skills, do you have a recommendation for a book, a course, a way to get better at those soft skills?
Well, you mentioned books. I think books are a really good thing. We talked about Never Eat Alone. We talk about, I'll tell you some of the books that I've read that I don't want to say they teach soft skills, but they teach, talk about humility and sharing a piece of yourself, which is another thing. And look at Brene Brown. We talked about her. I know you like her too. Any of her books, pick any one of her books, and they will help you. She will help you understand, how to sharpen your soft skills. I read, believe it or not, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. You ever read that book?
Oh yeah,
great book. What is that? You know what that book taught me? Taught me about humility. That and the fact that Phil was able, in a meaningful way, he was able to relate to other people and show you his errors, his mistakes, his screw-ups. And I'll never forget one story he told in there. He said he was taking out some bigwigs. I don't know if they were, I don't know where they were from. Maybe they were from China, Japan. I don't remember. And took him out to a really nice dinner because he thought that was important. Okay, no problem. And the bill comes, and he gives them his credit card. And they brought him over and they said, Mr. Knight, your credit card was denied, insufficient funds. And he he wanted to share that with the world because he understood that sharing a piece of yourself, even if it's a dark piece, I don't consider that dark, but even if it's a moment of challenge, or it's important because it connects with other human beings. So why is that a good book for soft skills? Because when you're talking to somebody, it's okay to share something of yourself, a piece of yourself with them, so that they can relate to you as a human being. That's really important. So books are really, really good. I know you've recommended a number of books that I think go that way also, but besides books, there's all kinds of courses that you could take that help you. But the truth is for most of us, the soft skills that I'm talking about is shit that your parents told you to do, right? You go up to somebody, you say hello. You go up to somebody, you shake their hand. You go up to somebody, you use their first name or their last name if you're a kid, whatever. Lawyers seem to forget that. When you meet somebody that's a client of yours, you call them by their name. Hey, Kelly, how you doing? How are you? How's everything? People like to hear their name. I like to hear my name when somebody calls me. So why not do the same?
I know exactly which one of my childhood friends is my father's favorite, because he said, and I quote,
yes,
"He's the only one of your friends that always says please and thank you when I drop you off anywhere." And I'm this is 30 years ago at this point, and I can still tell you exactly who it is, and that was why.
It's funny you said that, because my mother said the same thing to me. Like, I had like a really good friend that I liked, and she was a little iffy about him, and I never understood why. And then one time I brought another friend over, who became a really good friend, and she says, "Oh, I like that boy." I said, "Why?" She says, "He always comes in and says hello and make sure he, hello, Mrs. Goldstein, how are you?" Or whatever he said, yeah, that's really important. It is very important. Soft skills, key.
Well, so okay, I'm gonna mix my metaphor here slightly. So Jeff Bezos has this thing where, like, Amazon does a lot of different things. He's like, but at the end of the day, I know that no one's gonna get something from Amazon and wish it cost them more or it took them longer to get to them. He's like, those are the two things that will never change, as cheap and as fast as possible.
Right.
And so I think about that so many moments in my life, right? Like, there's never a moment where I'm like, hey, I wish that person was worse at telling stories. I wish that person had been meaner to me. That just never happens.
Right.
And so we can sit here and say, being uniquely you, but there are certain things that are just so consistently requested in society, humanity, connection among humans. Just do it.
Listen, it related somewhat. A lot of people, a lot of times I tell people just what I told you before, that anything that for the most part, that I've written or I've said are not like new inventions, new ideas. I mean, I'm sure Tony Robbins talks about some of the things I talk about too, but there's a big difference. Now, the truth is that, when I hear, let's just use Tony Robbins for a moment. When people hear Tony Robbins talk, it's not like they're saying, "Oh, I never knew that. Oh, that's interesting. That's a new thing." No, they like the fact that he mingles it with maybe a personal story from his childhood or when he was struggling, or maybe it's the way he's presenting it, the way he's saying it, maybe the way he's looking at the crowd, maybe the way he's holding his hands. I really don't know, but often the same things that might be told by 10 different people won't strike you, but on the 11th person, for some reason, it hits you.
Well, and for Tony Robbins, I think so. Okay, let's back up for a second. So Brene Brown talks about the thing that we look for the most in other people is their vulnerability, and the thing we hate sharing is our own vulnerability.
Right.
Tony Robbins should not be able to talk. Like, literally, his vocal cords have fused inside his body because he yelled and screamed and talked so much. So he actually has to figure out, he does not talk for 12 hours before the and he shares that. So not only am I hearing this for the 10th time, but in his manner, I'm understanding that this is a person who genuinely has to move his entire life around being able to physically share this out of his mouth with sound behind it because of what he has done to his body from it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And when I read a book, Jordan, even when I read a book like Brene Brown, and when I read her book, she said things, they weren't new to me, but the way she couched them behind an example or something going on in her life made me feel like, oh, I can really connect with this person. If she's saying this, I'm sure there's real meaning to this. And let me think about that a little bit more. When I finished writing my first book, Who's in the Waiting Room, I really, I had this moment toward the end where I said, I don't know if I want to put this out. Who the hell wants to listen to this? I mean, everybody's got a problem. Why listen to mine? And I recognize that. And then I had some quick conversation with my youngest daughter, who managed to have enough brains, much more than me at that point, to say, you know what, just do it. Just put it out there. That's it. So after I put it out, within a week, I got people who said, they liked the book, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But then I got a call from somebody who I didn't know very, very well. Actually, it was one of my wife's friends. And she said, Neal, we just read your book. And Jerry and I, that's her husband, are going out for dinner tonight. And we're going to talk about the relationships that we have and whether, these are real relationships or not. And I said, okay, somebody got it. That really made my moment. So, look, yeah, everybody, many people have said what I've said, but maybe it's the way you've said it, or the how you couched it in terms of your own moments dealing with something that's relatable, that strikes the chord with people.
Well, I'll take you one further, right? So, Sue Dog, at the end of it, what does Phil Knight talk about? He talks about how he would give it all away to have one more day with his son, who passed away in a scuba diving accident. Right. You read Walter Isaacson's book on Elon Musk, and there's so many moments where Elon is like, I don't even want to be me. Nobody else wants to be me, whatever. Right. So it's not even just the standpoint of, who wants to hear from us. Right. It's, if we could get 10,000 more people talking about how nice it is to not make $27 billion, but be able to be there for your family and give that mentorship back and change that life for one person. If that story was out there 10,000 more times, that's 10,000 more opportunities for somebody else to hang their hat on that story.
So you'll be the first one. I'm about to put on my social channels an email I just got this week, and from somebody that I swear to you, I had to think about who this was. So, when I was at a mastermind in Chicago 3 years ago, right after my book was put out, I took a bunch of them with me, and I was at a bar in Chicago, and it was by myself. Maybe it was before the mastermind, and I was chatting with the barmaid, and she was very nice. And I don't remember. I thought she had like a good story or whatever. I says, I'm going to drop my book off tomorrow morning. If you get a chance, read it. 3 years later, she sends me an email. Wasn't one line or two lines. It was a series of paragraphs where she basically said, your book helped me change things, helped me move my life around. And she says, I can't tell you how many times I looked at certain parts of your book and was in tears. And this is what I've done. And I said, holy shit. I said, I'm actually making an impact. That's
And here's the thing, everybody listen to this. We're not saying this from the standpoint of bragging. We're saying this from the standpoint of Neal had that one person in life that got you back from dropout, back to law firm owner. Right. I had so many criminal defense attorneys sit down with me when I was leaving the prosecutor's office. Not everybody has that opportunity for that mentor, for that real true advice. And so if it's social media at scale, if it's a book that gets into the right hands, getting it out there, you never know how that's going to impact somebody in a hopefully positive way.
Yeah, 100%. And, I'm sure you see that with your own stuff. And it's very rewarding, even though, it didn't make the New York Times bestseller list. And it's okay. I didn't do it for that. But it made an impact. The truth is, the book was originally meant for my kids, just as something I could leave them that is beyond a picture or a few dollars or whatever it will be. Something that they'll be able to hold in their hands and say, this was my dad's words. And this is what he went through, and these were the challenges. And, maybe they could add that to their tool belt as well.
I love it. Well, yeah, because you came to it from the right perspective. I mean, I think that's so much of this. Like we're talking about genuine human connection, right? Neal's not telling you to pick up the phone and call a referral source every day. He's telling you to have lunch with some friends, build some connections with some people. Like the fact that we are putting that genuineness first, one, I think we have more fun. Two, I think it's more impactful for both sides. So you actually get more work doing it that way. But like you have to really be doing it for that reason.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, if you want to put this actually in practical, law office day-to-day stuff, I got to tell you, there was nothing better for me than doing a deposition in person, because I can question somebody much better when I'm looking at them and looking at their verbal and nonverbal cues. And mediations, when the mediations used to be in person and now they're all on Zoom, it was much easier to connect with an adjuster or a defense opposing counsel in person, when we could all laugh or joke, whatever it is. Doesn't mean that every time the case is going to settle, but guess what? When we did it in person, it seemed to settle a lot more often than on Zoom. For whatever reason, I do think there's a better connection there. So yeah, even connecting within your day-to-day law life is important.
All right, I want to dive in that a little bit more detail. If you're watching this when it first comes out, it's on a Tuesday. This Friday, my newsletter is on the Disney principle, properly positioned as a 20-year Orlando in. We're going to talk about how you can bring some of the Disney principle stuff to your office. And then this month, we're selling our hiring SOP. So if you are finally ready to make that jump, have some more support, be able to get out there and make more human connection, we've got that available for you. But Neal, so you mentioned this in-person stuff. And for me, I think all the hatred, 95% of the hatred on social media doesn't happen in person. So like just the sense of, I wouldn't say this on person. I wouldn't turn this money down in person versus Zoom. Like we are human beings. We have been together since the dawn of human time versus Zoom coming out, 15 years ago versus
right.
Phone calls and stuff. Like we are trained in, we have survived based upon picking up cues from each other that get muddled through the digital landscape.
Oh yes, so a handful of companies today control obviously the algorithms of what's going on, and rage and hate and getting people riled up. That's what works for them, and they'll continue doing that until somebody says stop.
Sure, but it's who knows what that's going to happen and what that challenge is. So
yeah.
From the standpoint of what we can control, what other daily habits that move the needle? I can't change Facebook's algorithm, but I can be kind to that young lawyer who needs help. But I can treat my staff properly, but I can, what else?
Well, listen, I'll say this, even though we just spent 45 minutes or so talking about, authenticity and being able to meet face to face and in person, I think digital, whether you like it or not, plays a role in how we live our lives. And even though the average person spends 7 or 8 hours a day on digital, I think it's important for you as a lawyer or any entrepreneur to be on digital, because it's a great way to introduce you to other people. It's not a great way, and I won't backpedal on this, to make deep relationships, to have deep relationships, to try to really connect with other human beings. But to introduce you to other people, it's a great thing to do. So there's no reason why on a day-to-day basis, even one or two things, so whether it's a post or it's a picture of you and your spouse, your partner, whatever, going on vacation, those mean things, and those things add up over time because today so many people use social media as a way to evaluate whether they're going to hire somebody, whether they're going to connect with somebody. You want to, I think you'd want to show that there's a personal side to you, And also, at some point, doesn't have to be every day, and it shouldn't be, something about what you do. So if you're a personal injury lawyer, maybe you want to write a post, or if you're a different type of lawyer, you want to write a post that shows your expertise.
Well, and I'll take you. I'll go that a step farther too. Staying in touch with people, not as a replacement for the human connection, but the in-betweens. I'm going to the Max Lawyer conference. Well, by the time you watch this, it will have been last week. So sorry, everybody. You missed a great conference. But like, there are people that I see once a year at that conference, or twice a year at that, or something else. But then we can jump on each other's podcasts. We can do the Zoom meetings. We can share each other's posts. So that when you get to that conference, you can really be more connected, because I'm not like, oh, hey, what have you been up to for the last year? I'm like, no, hey, 2 weeks ago, I saw your daughter just graduated from school and you're going out and doing this. Like, tell me more about it. Share the behind the scenes. Right.
100%. And that's true too, because if you're the type of lawyer, let's say you're the type of lawyer that gets referrals or wants referrals from other lawyers. So now we're not talking about potential clients. We're talking about other lawyers. What's the right thing to do there? Guess what? The same thing. It's the same thing. If you don't like the lawyer that you want cases from, then don't go there. Don't hang out with him or her. That's it. If you want cases from lawyer B and you like him, call him up and say, hey, you want to go out for coffee or something? Yeah, more often than not, they'll do that. And so that's the same way you connect with a potential client. You're going to connect with colleagues. But if you're just doing it because you think, without mentioning names, this guy's got the most PI firms in the country, so let me see if I can connect with them. No, it's not going to work that way. It's not going to work that way.
And I'm so glad you shared that, because we were talking about, interest. Go do these things with referral sources. If you don't know what you like, who do you want to spend more time with, and ask them what their interests are?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, hey, they're into this, they're into that. Like, all right, well, let's go do it. Would you show me to the rock convention? Would you show me how you got a rock tumbler? Show me how it works.
Right.
They'll be honored to share. You'll get to find out if you do enjoy this for a low commitment, not buying. I don't know what a rock tumbler costs.
Right.
But you don't have to buy one. Whatever it costs, go try out theirs. Go see what you like.
Right.
I dig it. All right, let me throw you the softball. What am I missing? What questions have I not asked you yet that we should ask?
I think we hit it all, and if a good part of it, I would just urge everyone that's watching this, that's listening to this, this one last thing that I think is vital in building real connections. I mean, solid connections. And I'll just give you a quick example. When I had two parents, both Iraqi war veterans, bring their middle school child to my office. He was bullied terribly, horribly, punched, kicked, poked with a pencil. And when I say just poked, not just poked, like they stabbed him with it. He was bleeding. He had to go to the hospital. He had blood in his urine. I mean, just this kid was a mess. And at some point, he wrote in an assignment, something about hurting himself that was never brought to anybody's attention. Anyhow, the plan was, at some point, there was a plan that was found that he was going to commit suicide with his father's necktie on Christmas. That's it. So they came to me, wanted to see if there was anything that I could do. And three of them came into the conference room. Mom and dad were just so nice, just unbelievably nice. The son, who was in middle school, I think he was in 8th grade at the time, came with his hands folded. He really wouldn't look at me. He pushed the chair away from the table. And I like to speak to the kids when I'm dealing with something like this. And I couldn't get to him. And then finally I thought about it and I said, I'm going to share a piece of my story with him. Not the same story, definitely wasn't the same, but it was uniquely challenging. And I think he saw it. And as I was telling him the story, you could see his arms unraveled and he wheeled his chair a little bit closer. I'm not saying I changed him. I'm saying I let him know that it's okay to trust me. I'm giving you something. I'm trusting you. What's my point here? My point is, if you can share a piece of yourself with somebody else. It doesn't have to be, not everybody has a rags to riches story. Not everybody has, like, they were hanging on by a fingertip when they fell off the mountain and then survived. It could be a funny story. It could be just a human story. If you're not comfortable doing it, just share a little piece of your story. That's all it takes. And doing that, I promise you, if you do that with a level of authenticity, right? You don't want to do it Machiavellian or underhanded, but if you do it authentically, it will change the dynamics.
You put in some effort to try and connect with this kid, and the entire history of humanity is built upon us connecting with each other. So it worked, or at least started down the path towards, opening up. I just, it cracks me up. We like all the different studies they do on animals, and we're sitting there like, these animals are dumb. And then you realize we humans work the exact same way, right? Like Instagram is BF Skinner's. Instagram is the same thing as BF Skinner's thing on rats and pigeons. And learned helplessness for dogs is the same thing as humans. And we are creatures. We are animals. And we are better together.
100%.
All right, so next week I'm going to have Hunter Garnett on. Hunter is a PI attorney in the South who literally has his mom on a billboard talking about how nice he is, and says it's his mom, and is so like, hey, my mom thinks I'm a great attorney and you should too. I love the tone that he takes. I love it. It's such an accessible, wonderful thing. I'm super excited to have him on the podcast next week. That being said, Neal, for anybody for the last 50 something minutes, smart enough to want to hear more of you, before Neal says it, you need to go check out That One Lawyer, the podcast. So we'll put that plug. But what else? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you other than checking out the podcast?
Yeah, you could just you could hit me up on Instagram at Neal A. Goldstein Law. That's fine. Neal A. Goldstein Law. That's Neal A. Goldstein Law. And you could look at my website, which is different than my law firm website. It's called Truth in Success. Truth in Success. And it has a whole bunch of blogs and resources and other things if you care to look at, books, whatever.
Wonderful. Awesome. All right.
It's great.
So,
Nope.
Any final thoughts?
Nope. We're all good. I'm really, really happy to have been here. I'm really glad that we connected because, as I said at the beginning, very hard to find like-minded people. I know there are really nice lawyers out there, but not everybody shares what you and I, the same philosophy.
But they need to. And look, I'm not telling you. There's an account on Instagram that makes fun of all the terrible posts on LinkedIn, like my wife leaving me at the altar taught me about B2B sales or whatever. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
But if all of us were that much more honest with each other, that much more open with each other, we would realize how normal being a genuine human person is versus the aggravation that you see, getting the attention.
100%, man.
All right. So that being said, thank you to everybody who took some time to watch and listen. Neal, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us today. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Then we've got the Disney Principle this Friday and Hunter Garnett next week. In the meantime, take 5 minutes and create some genuine human connection. Give someone a call, book a lunch. Take that one extra little second and really be there for somebody. It will help all of you and the world immensely.
Amen.